Yeah.
Here goes nothing.
Oh, we're good.
Yay.
Okay.
Hey, welcome to the Super Fans. We're not smart.
Technology's weird.
It's hard.
I'm only good with an abacus. I don't know what a computer is for.
No, whenever I was hitting the record button, it would just make my screen go blank, and then I couldn't see. I couldn't hear anything.
You gotta feed the hamster so he stays on the wheel. Is what it is. Anyways, so we started 5 times here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
6th time the charm.
Yeah, it's like rolling out the same power play and penalty kill over and over again. It's,
oh, snap.
Zing.
Yowza.
How do you get the likes for that comment? Look at it. Arby, I think you have a man crush or something.
I'm blowing up.
Bobby Big Wheel.
Yeah. All right.
So anyways.
Yeah, what should we talk about tonight? Because there's, I don't know, not a whole lot going on.
No.
Well, we demoted Hellebuck. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
That's what we called for on the podcast months ago, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, discussed it.
And you know what? Being tank friendly, I think that was what we wanted to see, right?
Yep. I think it's just so interesting. I don't know what message they're trying to sell their dressing room when that happens. I mean, they trotted him out for 23 of 26 starts. He was ridden like a number 1 workhorse, and then the next day he's backing up Comrie and the Moose. And
yeah,
I mean that's great. I mean, if Andre's going to come back and step into the fire and probably get burned. I mean, he looked okay against Edmonton, but neither team put on a show that game. I don't know if the ice was so bad or what, but that was near impossible to watch that entire game. So yeah, I mean, for Tank Nation, I guess Andre coming back and Hellebuck in the minors. The quote that bugged me maybe it wasn't a quote. It was just put in the paper about how this was the path of least resistance, and that is totally a Chevy True North move.
So we're just supposed to accept it. It's the guys. You know what? It's the fan base that totally believes in everything that management's doing, and this is for the betterment of the club. That people are rationalizing that. You know what? The last couple of games, the last couple of weeks, Hellebuck's been ordinary. So yeah, send him down. He needs more seasoning. But to be seasoned and honed, facing 45, 50 shots a game, you know what? In the A. I don't know what he's already holding his own here. So I don't know. It's just I don't know how you rationalize it. I see it for what it is. I see that he's the only guy that can be sent down without having to clear waivers. I get it.
Right.
But let's not try to make it anything else. It's what it is.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Like I said, it's the path of least resistance. Do I have to make a tough decision? No, we'll take the easy way out, even if it hurts our team, because Hellebuck, not only is Hellebuck the future, he's the current answer. I mean,
he was the answer. Imagine where this team's record would be if he wasn't there to step in.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Hey, Chester's joined.
The thing that bugs me is. When they asked Hellebuck about all of this, he said that he understands it and that he understands being sent down and that True North is showing loyalty to Pavlik and Hutchinson. And I'm just like, at what point do the Winnipeg Jets start treating this like a business, and put loyalty, you can only be loyal to a point, right?
But how?
At work, when someone's constantly screwing up and fucking up on a regular basis, you can only put up with it for so much before you say, you know what? Sorry, but we got to go in a different direction here. Things aren't working out. It's been how many years of Pavlik being awful? And yet they just keep going back to him because they feel like they owe him something, that he's been loyal to the organization. Where was this loyalty when Pavlik went and did something incredibly stupid under the influence, crashed up a car, and that got hidden from True North when they were negotiating talks? Is that being loyal to True North?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to bring that up, though. Hey, you're not allowed to bring that up.
No.
Nobody brings that up.
But I just want to know, like, why?
Hey,
why?
It's not like you went. It's not like you went to the NBA All-Star game.
No, like, come on, guys. Like, it's not like you wear a tracksuit to the rink, you know. Like,
it's like, when is this team, like, when the minute this team starts acting like a business and cutting their losses and start trying to put this team in a position to win other than draft and development, they are going to be mediocre.
You know what?
A team.
Here's what.
A team.
Okay, let me. Sorry.
Right. I was going to say, if you look at some of these teams, right, they cut their losses. You know, if they make a mistake, they sign a guy, they trade for a guy, the guy doesn't work out, they cut their losses. In Winnipeg, they get fucking contract extensions because it's like they feel like they have to be loyal to these guys for coming to Winnipeg. I'm sorry, it's a goddamn business. If you're not working out, here's your walking papers, have fun. Thanks for giving us a couple weeks, a couple years, a couple months, whatever of your time. But you know what? We're in the business of winning.
But they're not.
You're just not working.
They're not in the business of winning. They're in the business.
And that's why I think that as long as True North takes this loyalty stance, takes this stance where they're, you know, they feel like they owe these guys something, they're never going to win. They're never going to be more than mediocre.
I think they're loyal to draft and develop. Like, they're not being loyal to this current core because they don't care about winning with them. I mean,
they'll sign Lad yet, though. You know that?
I think they will because
I think that's where it's headed right now.
And
there's no heat whatsoever, right? Saying the other way, right? That he's going to get traded. There's more and more heat, more and more discussion that he's going to get signed. That they're going to find a way to sign him and make a deal.
And it's not because I think Lad's a bad player, but he's going to get term and he's going to get money, just like Buff did. But it's more of the same. Like, unless they make a big trade out of someone else who's under contract, the only UFAs in the roster right now, well, I guess Party's playing tomorrow, so Party is a UFA. But everyone else, other than Lad, is now under contract or a pending RFA. Like, it's status quo. It's more of the same.
Let's take a different approach, though. Okay, so let's look at this core and let's look at the fact that they made the playoffs last year and say that, hey, maybe there's a couple years of being somewhat competitive if they augment this lineup with, you know, a couple free agents, a couple forwards that they sign. You know what? If they do a couple tweaks on the blue line, maybe bring in somebody on the left side of the defense, and then they commit to Hellebuck as their starting goaltender. You know what? I could see us contending that way. But
how?
But they're not going to do that, though, right? They're not going to do that. They're not going to supplement this lineup with more talent. Okay, we've added Ehlers. You know what? There's an interesting argument by somebody on Twitter that it's not the lack of depth that's been the problem for the Jets. It's a lack of performance from the top six.
And I don't believe that.
Here,
this top six has actually been quite serviceable each of the past 5 years, but they were playing too much. You know, like we used to talk about it. The fourth line would play 4 to 6 minutes a game. Your best players would be on the penalty kill, blocking slap shots, and gassing themselves on on the penalty kill. And what did they do? They actually took Slater away, who was, if nothing else, at least he killed penalties poorly, but at least he gave the good players a breather. So, I mean, I guess I saw Andrew Kopp out there the other night, so maybe they'll finally get him out there. They also took Stu off the other game, which is good. And now
mid-game they took him off the PK. What game was that?
That was the who they just lose to?
The Boston game. The Boston game. In the middle of the Boston game, they benched Stewart off the PK. I tweeted about it.
And then he broke his hand the other game, so that hurts the tank. Because just like when Pavlik got hurt, the team got better. I think the team's going to get better without him too. So
who do they bring up, or did they bring somebody up yet?
I don't know. They'll probably.
They're not going to bring anyone up. Who are they going to bring up? They got.
No, like who are they going to insert? Is it Party?
Yeah, Party's going to play tomorrow. Yeah, Postma can't get into this lineup, and this is interesting. The Party's going to play tomorrow. What was it? A week after Maurice just threw him and Postma under the bus.
Yeah.
By saying that.
After telling the fan base that they're not worth the price of admission, right? Yeah, pretty much is what Maurice told Eddie Tate.
Yeah, that's right.
What was the Party comment? There was a Party. They asked him something today.
Well, he said something about how he feels like he's going nowhere, and it's and I mean he's a pending UFA, and he can't even get into the lineup to showcase himself as a free agent this summer. I won't say luckily because people will get mad at me for cheering a Stu injury, but I mean, luckily Party can get in, and he's better. So's Postma. Stewart is horrible. I mean, it's amazing to me the difference I've seen even on Twitter. Some of the biggest fans are kind of going like, "Yeah, we got to get Stu playing less minutes. We got to get him away from Trouba. We've got to not play him." But he's under contract for 3 more years at what 2.6? Like he's making $10 million, and he wears a letter.
He wears the.
I mean, here's the thing: if they bring Lad back, which I think they're gonna do,
they can't. They just can't.
They're gonna do it. Like, let's just be honest.
Well, they won't be able to afford Trouba then. They won't be able to afford Trouba.
And that's where I'm going is then what the hell happens? Like Papi, you said, okay, we bring back Lad. Maybe we just gotta tweak it, bring in some guys. With what money? Like, what money are they gonna have? They're gonna have to do some major retooling.
But not
if they want.
But not only what money, what room for the kids to break in. Remember, they couldn't sign for Olik and Stepniak because we needed to keep room open for the kids. Well, Where's Kyle Connor going to come and play next year? Where's Patan and where's Morrissey? There's no room at the inn. Like, everybody's under contract.
Patan's not going to be up here for a couple of years. I don't think he's going to stay in the lineup.
No, I agree, but all of us, we had to make room for Kopp, and I mean, I got understand. Ehlers not only deserves to be here, it was the only option, but Andrew Kopp is doing nothing that.
But okay, so there's the argument that he's never going to be anything more than a 4th line center, right?
Which is fine. Which is those
fine
guys.
But I mean, at least you could develop him to do maybe get some offensive talent as a pro with the Moose. But he's doing nothing on the 4th line right now that a Jarrett Stoll type of minimum wage 4th line veteran could bring you. And I don't know. It's like, yeah, they're playing a kid, but what's he doing? He scored 1 goal earlier. It was a crazy bank shot off of a skate, and he doesn't kill penalties until now, maybe. So I mean, like, I don't know. It's just, and what else? I mean, the Patan started here. He got sent down. I mean, everyone's so high on Lemieux, and I guess Army was disappointed. He only got up here because of an injury. So
let's say next year. Let's see what type of lineup that we have based on the personnel that we have right now. I don't know. Maybe if we don't win as much as we do, we insert a top 5 draft pick into the lineup.
And that's where I think bringing back Lad is going to be the biggest downfall for this organization because, whatever. He's your captain. He's committed to being here. He's re-signed. Every goddamn narrative you want to use for Andrew Ladd, use it. But at the end of the day, Ehlers can replace Ladd, right? And if they get a top 5 pick, you've more than replaced him. You don't need him anymore. So why would you use that money and re-sign Jacob Trouba or bring in somebody? I just think that bringing Lad back, and then, then there's always the people who argue against you saying, well, we can just put Lad on the third or fourth line. What part of that makes sense paying a guy $6 million to play on the third or fourth line? I understand that he's one of your best two-way players, but you can get those guys. You can get them through trading. You can get them through free agency. You could have re-signed one last year, but you know what? that happened.
Yeah.
It's just me, like, Lad. I understand Buff. You needed Buff because there is no organizational depth in defense. But Lad, I think there are more than enough guys within the organization who can replace Andrew Ladd. And I just don't see a need for him. He's just going to take a spot, and he's going to cost you a lot of money.
Well,
and that's going to hurt them because with Trouba and Scheifele, those guys aren't taking bridge deals. There is no way in hell they're going to take a bridge deal with what some of these guys are getting nowadays. So I seriously, I don't know. Part of me thinks Chevy's going to sign him. It's like, I don't want him to, because I want to be like, yeah, Chevy, you did something good, but a part of me knows he's gonna fucking give him a 6-year, $6.3 million contract.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
you're gonna sell it as, oh, Andrew Ladd took a home downtown discount to stay here, when you're gonna be like, oh.
Guys, we have a guest that's trying to log in here. That's
Oh no.
Is it Alan?
No.
Oh, Harrison. All right.
It's our American buddy. Where are you?
Oh.
You have to activate your camera.
I don't know. Well, while we're waiting for him to join up, I mean, look at the current top 6 on this team. I mean, the Ehlers, Scheifele, Wheeler line is probably going to be together for a while, and then it's Little with Stafford and Perreault. And they're all under contract for next year, those top 6. So where does Ladd fit? I mean, are they going to move him back up in the top 6 when they re-sign him? Maybe. But it's just more of the same. I don't know. I don't understand why they need to be so loyal to players, why other teams can make these tough decisions to sell off assets when they're at their peak. And by the time this team is ready to compete,
none of these guys
are not going to be in their prime. And they're going to be paying a lot of money for periphery pieces. I mean, Wheeler's at his peak right now, but I mean, Little has lost his scoring touch a little bit. Ladd isn't playing the best. Toby got smoked in the playoffs last year. Even I'll admit that. Oh, what's going on? We're freezing. Oh,
Here's Harrison.
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
how's life? Not bad.
How are
you? Of course,
you?
I'm not a real Jets fan because I live in America. So.
Well, neither are we, because we don't believe in the plan.
We don't have P1 tickets, so we're not real Jets fans.
Oh God.
Yeah, I only have.
We don't drink the Kool-Aid. So we don't drink the Kool-Aid.
I don't.
I see the tickets,
man, that's not good, man. That's if you don't even have.
No, I'm not for real. I only spend thousands of dollars on tickets a year, but I don't know. I'm not allowed to have my.
You don't want to pay for a losing product?
What's that? I willingly pay for a losing product every year.
Yeah, so when I signed up, I was awestruck by the return, and I thought there'd be a plan in place by now, but I still don't see it. So.
Yeah, so did we all.
Yeah.
So, I can't remember who I was talking with this week. I think it might have been Pete. And I was just kind of joking because it was like at the height of the Stu North hate and like frustration from that Boston game. Like, and I was like kind of joking, and I was just like, they really shot themselves. Like True North PR department is awful.
Oh, it's horrid. It has been.
And the fact that they put, like, just looking at what is going on with the whole Stu narrative right now, the fact that they put it out there that he married a girl that works for True North, it's now people are like, like you see people.
Everybody who didn't know is like,
now everyone
WTF, like,
no, and now everyone
seriously
is like talking about it. And on the radio this week, when I think,
Ruicki, by the way, is a
was
champ.
going to
like,
town on Stu, and Troy asked the question, was like, does Mark Stewart have trade value? And Brandon's like, no. Why would anyone want to trade for Mark Stewart? He does nothing. He's horrible on the penalty kill. You can get a guy like that on waivers, or just call one up from your farm.
Yeah, unless a Blake Wheeler's going along with him, like in the previous trade.
Yeah, and then Libel's like, yeah, and I don't think they would trade him because, he's so close with the organization. And I'm like, oh, God. Like,
here goes, right? But you know what? The narrative is going to change tomorrow morning. Like, I know, was the big show on this morning? Did anybody listen? So tomorrow it's going to be different. Everybody knows it's going to be different. Pavlik was lights out, and perceivably had lights out, and the big show is going to be totally let's play as hard as we can, because they don't believe in the tank, right? They don't believe in tanking. They, even though they spent the whole show on Friday talking about how good it would be to have a top 5 pick and everything else, and to get rid of Lad and to do this, it's going to be totally different, because you know what, they looked decent and they won on Saturday. So
it's 9 points.
I don't know if Ruicki will still stay the same. What do you think, Harrison?
The Jets are pretty trashy.
You guys,
at this point,
I'm frozen.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets are pretty trashy. I don't really have high hopes for anything. Basically the Thrashers again, and Mark Stewart getting injured is like, I was like, shit, man. I was really hoping that we could sink further down. Like, I'm not going to actively root against the team, but then Pavlik got a win, and I'm like, no, this is not how it's supposed to work. This is not the narrative I constructed for this team.
Yeah.
So there's a 50-50 shot at this point. I think I'll get by with some more whiskey, probably.
Nice. Well, the Predators just got a point tonight. They lost in overtime. So the playoff spot got a touch further, but another game played. But as I mentioned earlier, the Jets have 6 games left before the deadline, and 5 of them are on the road. And that one game at home is part of a back-to-back with the Stars. So where are we going to be in 2 weeks from today, which is the deadline? The deadline will be come and gone in 2 weeks.
We've been challenged to talk about something else. Chester saying, what else can we talk about? And he just tweeted at me, can we change the subject? So one of you guys out
there. Yeah.
Give us a different topic, anybody. We'll talk about whatever comes up first. How about that?
All right.
Listen to
I'm not gonna. Okay, slip with listen to AIH 20416. Yeah, maybe if you have nothing better to do with your life, or. I'm just joking.
Have we talked?
Oh.
No.
Do we want to talk about that, guys? No, we're not going to be talking about that or him.
Yeah.
No, the fact that he has 16 goals is going to be ignored
have we talked
today.
About the idea of tanking, and this people seem to think that when we say tank that we want the players to not try.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's, I mean, other than the coaching staff putting Stu and Thorburn on the penalty kill, the players are going to play their hardest. The coaches are going to try and win or do what they think will win. It's management and ownership that make that decision to tank. And I don't understand why this message now is being just sold everywhere that trading Lad for
Why don't you
futures
just
is
tell
to
us
weaken
your
on ice
vote?
team. Makes you call up kids that aren't as good, and they could try their hardest while losing.
And we could still suck.
Like, I don't.
That's always that's always.
I mean, I don't want to call out anybody for saying it, but I've seen it everywhere, and it's just no one is suggesting that the players stop trying because they're playing for their jobs. Everybody knows this. It's just such a weird premise to argue.
And it's funny because you go and you look at other teams, and other teams are like full on ready for their teams to just suck. Like, you see it, and then in Winnipeg, it's like, don't you dare say the word tank, or you're getting tweeted at like every minute, every second, everyone's attacking you, being like, how dare you say the tank? I'm gonna not a real fan if you want it to tank. I'm like, I am a fan, and I would like a top 5 pick that will help my team become a contender for 10 years as opposed to 1 year and get swept out of the playoffs. That's not me being a bad fan. That's me wanting to be cheering for a product and wanting to see a great product on the ice. And the fact that there are like, the Oilers basically came out and said this week that they're going to be in sell mode come the deadline. Toronto's already shipped off enough. I think teams are priming, maybe basically because they don't want Edmonton getting that first pick, because let's be honest, how angry would all of us be if Edmonton got the first pick again?
I don't even want to talk about it.
I would love I would love it.
Brian, you love everything. You love everything.
You know what? Alan had a good question here. Who else gets traded? Who else should be on the trading block other than Ladd? So now, to support our tank theory, right? Our most movable asset, or someone that's going to garner the most interest. Who on our team would we put on the trade block to get the most assets back?
No. I guess it's
Enstrom.
Myers,
Enstrom's been thrown around, right?
I don't.
Myers is an interesting one too, right? So we're loaded up on the right side of the defense, and I think if we're gonna look at where we have strength,
they just had
it's one of our young right-handed defensemen, right?
Best defenseman on the team 2 weeks before they re-signed Buff, so they love Myers, and then not only that, they love his backdiving deal, so he's not going anywhere. I think Trouba, based on his RFA scare. Maybe a Stafford if you're going to sell off a veteran to get Ladd back in the top 6. And then maybe they want Hellebuck up so they can package Hutch as an RFA.
Trouba is interesting to me because if I'm Jacob Trouba and Dustin Byfuglien just signed to 5 years, and we've got how many years does Myers have left? 3?
Like 2018 or 2019.
Like 4? So if I'm Jacob Trouba, do I really want to play in that bottom pairing? Am I in that bottom pairing, or am I going to be in that bottom pairing? Like, if I'm going to be laced with Stu for the next how many years does Stu have? Like, because that's their default pairing.
2 more? I thought it was 3.
So would he want to play under those conditions coming up into RFA status? Does he want to really re-sign for long term? And the trend is not bridging anybody right now, right? Nobody's being bridged right now.
All he can do is sit out or hope for an offer sheet. But I don't know if that's a risk the Jets would want. And there's all this talk. Elliot Friedman keeps talking about the cost certainty that a Travis Hamonic would provide. So I could see that happening maybe in the summer. I just don't see the Islanders trading Hamonic right now. They've won a bunch in a row at home. They look good beating up on the Wings today. So within the next 2 weeks, I could see, a couple, do Hardy and Postma have any value after not playing for months? I doubt it. Hutch looked okay again in a couple spots, and he's an RFA, so maybe someone would want him, but I don't know. They're not going to trade a Little or a Wheeler. They're not going to trade, maybe Toby, if they get him to move his no move clause, and Pavlik. I don't know.
Well, if he has a good week here, his trade value will go up. There's quite a few teams that need a goalie right now, right?
San Jose.
Salary.
San Jose needs one. Phoenix needs one.
Nashville needs one.
Yeah, Calgary. Yeah, apparently
Calgary
might have a tear in his knee. So yeah, maybe. That would be awesome. I mean, I'm looking for any reason. I said it last time. I'm looking for any reason to sing Chevy's praises, and I gave him credit for the Buff deal, but there's still so many holes, so many issues. So.
But here's my thing. Here's a question. Let's say a team comes at you and says, "Look, our window's closing. We need to win a cup in the next 3 years. What do you want for Blake Wheeler? And what if this team is willing to give you pieces that can plug these holes that the Jets have, and you can unload someone in that deal like a Pavlik and get a bunch of assets in return? Why would you not make that deal? I know people say Wheeler's off limit, but if someone's willing to overpay,
it's not happening.
Why not?
There's no way they move it.
Why not? Why? Everyone said no. The Flyers would never move Jeff Carter or Mike Richards, and they did.
Yeah.
Why couldn't Blake Wheeler get moved?
Because Chevy is scared to make moves. On top of that, but no, I there's just no way. I mean, Wheeler's the next captain.
They said
he's not expiring
yet. Or Bogo was going to be the next captain. And then it was Trouba. Now it's Wheeler. So,
Wheeler is the voice of that locker room. He's the media darling too, right? So he makes the most sense.
But I don't see that happening either.
The other thing to remember is that Hextall is really good at leveraging former relationships with teams that he's either worked for or interacted with before. So, I mean, Ronaldo, but LeCavalier. I mean, that deal doesn't happen unless he knows Lombardi. And I just don't know. I mean, somebody said Montreal might take Pavlik. I'm like, I don't think so. That's not really an upgrade over anyone that they have, and they keep paying like.
If he was a free agent, maybe just to get through the year, but no, he has. And the thing about Pavlik is that his cap hit's 3.9, but they're paying him 4.5 next year. Like, they're paying more than his cap. Like, nobody wants that deal.
Unless the Jets retain some salary on it, no one's gonna want that deal.
If they want to finally leverage True North's power monetarily, they haven't done it yet, so I don't know why they'd start now. But that would be great. I mean, get some of that Thompson money involved and make some business decisions. Like Philly retaining all that money on the LeCavalier and Shen deal. Like, teams can get out from under bad deals if you're willing to be creative. The Jets have the cap space, and they have the richest man in Canada in their back pocket. Yet we have the cheapest product on the ice right now. So,
did Toronto retain salary on the Panouf deal?
No salary was retained.
No. Wow.
They haven't returned any. They haven't returned any.
That was the crazy part about it.
Deals, right?
Ottawa absorbed the full $8 million, and that's crazy because they got expiring contracts, or they gave away expiring contracts that they could more micromanage because it was split into smaller deals. So I don't really understand why they thought the Panouf deal was a great idea, but I don't know. GMs.
Yeah. Anyways, I got to go. My battery is about to die, and I've got to get some sleep. So, peace out. Alan, you going to take my place? Good luck, buddy. Later.
See you, Arby. So we have an open spot here. I don't know. Do we want Alan on the show? I'm just kidding, Alan. Chime in, Al. We're waiting. Anybody? First one in.
Wow.
I control it. Anyways, thanks. Nobody wants to come on. That's awesome.
So here, this isn't a Jets.
There's nothing to talk about.
But who's your favorite player in the NHL to watch right now? Doesn't have to be a Jet. It could be anybody. Like, who do you like watching as a player?
Well, here he comes.
Zach Ronaldo was pretty good the other night.
What's up, jerk?
Yeah.
Hey, Kat. Zach Ronaldo was pretty fun to watch the other night.
Yeah.
Alan, I just asked them a non-Jets question. I said, "Who is your favorite player to watch right now that plays in the NHL?"
By the way, nice jersey, Al.
Connor McDavid. Easy.
How about you, Papi?
Connor McDavid is really good to watch right now. Yeah, for sure. Like every time he touches the puck, you gotta pay attention.
I'm
So you
stuck
guys-
between
sure.
Panarin and Goss Despair.
The
No
Ghost
fire.
Bear. Do you guys think that?
You're
No, he's
sucking
good,
up
though.
to
He is fun to watch.
I put the Flyers on when I need to have trouble sleeping.
Oh, thank you. Here's something that I was thinking about today. Like, I know how people were talking about the Jets making the playoffs, and I was kind of laughing. I was like, what if last year Chevy went into it thinking, all right, the product isn't that very good. We got a shot at McDavid, and then just PDO happened, and they were just basically screwed. And he was like, well, I guess I got to make a couple trades and go for it. Because, like, you got to think that the Jets making the playoffs was a bit of a fluke last year. Let's be honest. They got a hot goalie back when they needed to in November. Ran him for a while, then Pavlik got hot. They had no business being in the playoff mix. LA sucked. Couple of those, LA wasn't very good. Who else wasn't? Dallas wasn't very good.
San Jose was worse than they had.
Do you guys
been.
think that that kind of screwed the Jets making the playoffs last year? I mean, it was great. They got all that revenue, but I mean,
We talked
talked
about this yesterday on the 20416 podcast over on.
Oh my God, you're worse than
And,
me.
So
What is that?
we were talking about how there's actually, like, up till this year, 4 years of circumstances that have prevented the team from doing a proper tank, because the first 2 years we were in the Southeast Division. So despite the fact that we were a crap team, we fooled ourselves into thinking that we were playoff contenders. And so they didn't blow it up in those first 2 years. And then in year 3, we had bad goaltending. They still went for it, but they had bad goaltending that stopped them from getting in the playoffs. So last year was kind of all things coming together for that playoff push. It's going to go down as, the 1 year they made the playoffs was a McDavid year. Like the worst timing that you could probably...
Worst time.
So now they're doing, well, we'll see, but they're starting the tank process at this point. But I think we fooled ourselves, and the team fooled themselves into thinking that they could compete because they were in this shitty division for 2 years, and kind of squandered the goodwill that the fans would have given them at that time. And now here we are. It's not a bad.
So why would a professional organization, knowing that they're moving into the Central Division, be fooled into thinking that they can contend with their talent core? This is an open and honest question. If you're hockey people,
so they. Yeah, but you're not.
No, I know, but they knew they were moving to the Central though
for the time being, and then after those first 2 years, they focused on locking in the core, right? That's when they signed.
Were they really competitive though? Were they really competitive? Like this Atlanta team had the same MO for the last few years, right? Even the season before they came here, they started out of the gate and they were big contenders in the Eastern Conference, and then they fizzled out that year before they came out. They came over, right? They were in a playoff spot for the first 5/8 of the year, and then they fizzled out. And then the very next year, they did the same thing, right? So if you've got the same scouts like Como was around, and a lot of people in your organization that were assessing the talent before, they knew that they weren't there yet. And they didn't do anything to augment that talent core. They didn't do anything to change it. They just drafted in, and they traded Oduya that first year. But really, if you're assessing your talent and you're an NHL level management team, do you really think you're that close?
They thought that they were closer than they were further away.
They did.
Right? I mean, look how they acted.
Yeah.
And then they put pressure on themselves to lock in the core of this team. And this is a core that hasn't done anything. So they signed Wheeler, Little,
Let's not forget that we signed Jokinen to a pretty big deal. Right, Jokinen wasn't cheap at $4.5 million. What was his salary at?
Yeah.
4.5. Yeah, and then we signed Setaguchi.
That was a good signing.
Like, I mean, on top of assessing your talent level, over-assessing your talent level, right? You take clear whiffs on some free agents that weren't cheap, right? Like if we're talking about we're talking about past performance and what they've done in the past. Like the people that rationalized that Lee Stempniak wasn't going to take us to the Cup for $850,000 are forgetting that we signed guys like Jokinen and Setaguchi to contracts where we were what was the message with that?
Did you guys?
That we're trying to make our team better, but we suck at choosing who we're going to sign. Like,
I mean, so far,
like honestly,
I mean,
like Gilgan, to me, they come off as inept. Am I wrong with assessing that with how they've tried to augment or add to our lineup? Sure, they've drafted well. And they're trying to develop their youth. Every team drafts and develops their youth.
They're plugging holes on the roster. So you look at a guy like Olli Jokinen, and at the time you think to yourself, okay, this guy is probably a second line center. He wasn't, but that's what they brought him in to do. We know they're not going to break the bank on top flight talent, right? They're not going to sign as a UFA, $7, $8, $9 million a year guy. Their wheelhouse is in the $3, $4, $5 million range. So if that's what you're going to pay to fill out your roster, then that's sometimes you hit. Sometimes you hit Matthew Perreault. You hit right. $3 million seems to be worth that deal. Other times, you miss, and the Olli Jokinen thing was probably a miss. Stafford, I wouldn't call a hit, but I wouldn't call a miss. So, but they don't make any sexy signings, right? They're filling slots, and the hope is that that will be the process that they go through until they hit the jackpot on a number of these draft picks. Whether they do that or not, who knows?
Yeah, I think the part of the problem is that they have a mindset that seems to be, we can kind of get by with the core that we have, plus some lower tier guys, but I don't think they really want to invest in the right bottom six guys. And it seems like in general there's a tendency for GMs to say, we don't need guys that can have skill plays in the lower six. And I don't understand that, because you could get Stempniak, and sure, he's getting top 6 minutes in New Jersey, and he's absolutely killing it. But he would be a hell of an upgrade over. You could put 3 Thorburns and Plusos together in some combo, and Stempniak would probably outbeat them all for the entire season. And it's mind-boggling, because he wanted no money, really. And I don't understand why management says we can just kind of use in-house guys that are terrible. But you get a couple of big UFAs or bigger UFAs, and they say, "Oh yeah, we got to re-sign him. We got to retain the Drew Staffords." And I understand that logic, but when you can have guys who have pretty close to equal output, even in just basic scoring, why didn't you take that option?
Because they thought that the young guys would fill that void. It was a bad bet. Chevy made that bet and he lost. I don't think that when he let Stempniak walk, that he was betting on Thorburn or Peluso taking up that production, he was probably betting on Nick Patan taking that, or Alex Burmistrov. You know, I mean, Burmistrov, that signing, you know, it's funny when Frolik signed with Calgary, about 10 minutes later, it came out that the Jets signed Burmistrov. It was, yeah.
So
like,
that was their backup plan for not signing.
Well, that hasn't turned out either, but those are the bets that they ended up making. It feels to me like the organization doesn't really have this concept of sunk money. Ultimately, with guys like Thorburn and Thorburn and Stewart and Pavlik, it's like, okay, well, we're spending the money, so we're going to get use out of the player, even if he's no good. Because what other reason is Mark Stewart doing over everybody else? It's because
like that logic seems sound, and I guess if you're looking at past signings and everything and the way they manage their assets, I guess that statement makes sense. What doesn't make sense to me is how they handle Frolik compared to all the other RFAs, other than Burmistrov, right? Other than Burmistrov, every RFA that was coming up to term, right? They signed to a long-term deal. Ladd, Little, Wheeler, Bogosian, Kane, all those RFAs they signed to long contracts, right? But Michael Frolik, for some reason, comes up to RFA and asks for 4x4, right? Which is what is reported he was asking that year that he was an RFA. And they said, let's see how you do this year, and let's try to sign you at the end of the year. They bridged him to UFA status.
It was a bad bet.
More or less, right?
You know,
it's a bad bet. Why, though? Every other RFA we've committed to, other than Burmistrov, because he was enigmatic, and we didn't know who he was, and he never lived up to potential, right? Michael Frolik was clearly not that case and was a clear contributor from the first game or first time that he stepped on the ice as a Winnipeg Jet. Why wouldn't we do everything that we could do to sign that guy up for long term?
One is because he didn't come over here with the rest of the guys when this team transferred over from Atlanta. The second reason is because he wanted 4 at 4, and at the time, I don't think that Chevy thought that he was worth that money, and so he took a gamble on a 1-year contract, and he lost. It sucks. I'm not telling you that I like it. It's just what happened, right? You know,
I get that.
It's frustrating, and unfortunately,
it happened
again. You know, these guys are gone. That's kind of, you know, like, they're gone, and like, I like to think, like, can you imagine this Jets lineup? You could have had Stafford as a UFA at the end of last year. Can you imagine this lineup, but toss 3 guys away and throw in Stempniak, Frolik, and Evander Kane? All of a sudden, you got to have a lineup, right? But
you can actually kill some penalties for once.
Yeah, but the team.
We don't want. That's another thing that's missed, right? Is how big Frolik and Evander Kane were on that PK.
It's a really big deal.
They were huge. And what's the biggest difference between last year and this year? Special teams.
Big time.
Because keeping the puck out of the net on PK
hasn't been fantastic, but it hasn't been the problem. You know, last year, the only problem this team really had was taking too many penalties, and but they were a good penalty kill. They had good, you know, they had a decent power play. They stunk at the start of the year, and they got better, and they had good goaltending. And so, lo and behold, you are a playoff team. This year,
it's like all you needed was league average penalty killing and power play, and the Jets would probably be a good deal above 500 at this point. Maybe not anywhere near where they were last year, but they would be better off. Which is kind of depressing.
Yeah, but
so
go ahead.
No, I lost my train of thought there for a second.
It's your show that I've hijacked, so.
Yeah, you've just totally hijacked. I'm like sitting here like, do I need to be listening? No, I was just wondering, like, so where do they go from here? Like, where do you go from here? Do you try to push this to team to, try to make the playoffs, or do you?
What, right this year?
What do the Jets do? Yeah, what do they do?
Playoffs are done.
Do they try?
There's no playoffs. Playoffs are done. It shouldn't even be in the conversation. It's over. There's no play.
But obviously they're not obviously Chevy's not going to walk into a room and say, "Guys, playoffs are done. Pack it in."
He doesn't need to.
Start planning where you're going to golf.
He doesn't need to do those.
But
things. Chevy needs.
No, but what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What I was asking more, so where would you go? Do you go and assess your talent? Do you look at your coaching staff? Do you look at your scouting staff? Do you leave everything as it is and pray that you get Austin Matthews? Where do the Jets go from now? Where would you guys go? What would you assess as the biggest thing that is wrong with this organization and that you think needs to be fixed?
I would look to move 4 people. I would move Andrew Ladd. I would move Tobias Enstrom. I would move Andre Pavlik, and I would move Drew Stafford if I could. If the right offers came on the table this year, I would move all 4 of those pieces. I would build as many draft picks as I can. I would replace them with young players. The tank will take care of itself if you do that. And I think I like Enstrom. I mean, I like Enstrom and Ladd. Stafford's okay. Pavlik, obviously, but 3 of those pieces are part of this core of players, and there's about 10 of them left that have come over here that have had 0 success on this team. It's
there's 9 of them
to make some serious moves, and if you want to blow it up, that's where you start. So if Ladd needs to be moved because he's going to walk away for nothing. The other 3, you dangle them out there, and if you get the right offer, you make the move. I don't want to move Enstrom, but I think that I would rather have some of that money go over to Trouba. I mean, Enstrom's a 30-year-old defenseman. Trouba is 22?
Is he 32? 32?
He's
older.
He's 30 or more, right? So
the only problem I have with that is the fact that we're very weak on the left side already.
That's the plan, is that we're tanking.
And there's nothing down the pipe, though. There's nothing down the pipe, and I don't know if Chevy
one of
has
those guys, right? You can flip them for something. You can
True.
acquire the whole thing is, right, what Alan's talking about is acquiring assets, right? That you're flipping 4 guys and you're trying to acquire as many assets, whether they're players or their picks, as possible, and then you can go and flip them for something that you need, right? And take advantage of teams that are at the cap who have RFAs and that need to shed salary, kind of like what the Islanders did to Chicago and Boston, getting Leddy and Boychuk. Both teams were against the cap. They gave them, I think, 3rd round picks for them, 2nd or 3rd round picks. I know one of them was a 3rd because it came from Philly in the Andrew McDonald deal. So I think if you're gonna blow it up, you're gonna try to acquire as much assets as you can and use them as currency to bring in something that you need, which could be a left-handed defenseman. And the other interesting thing I thought that came out this week was I can't remember who said it, but someone said the GMs are really not wanting to part with their firsts for UFAs. If they're going to part with their firsts this year, they want a player that has term left on their deal. So I kind of look at that and I go, okay, well, something that was interesting that I think the Jets could easily do with a player like Enstrom is trade him for a first and bring back a player in that deal, whether it's a depth player or a prospect, maybe get an additional 3rd or 4th round pick in the deal. And then at the draft, you know what you can do? You can flip that first again with another pick and try to move up and try to grab yourself a defenseman, try to grab yourself someone like that. And I mean, it's been done before. So I think the first thing for Chevy to do is assess this team and say, these are the guys that I feel going forward is what I...
Someone's
What is that
typing.
noise?
It's
I have a
Harrison.
mechanical-
So I think that's the first thing is Chevy to basically look and say, this is who I see in my core, and just start shopping players.
You've got, I mean, with the Enstrom thing, you're gonna, you don't get something for nothing, right? You gotta, if you get the right haul back for him. I mean, if you get a first for Ladd and you can get a first for Enstrom, and I'm not saying they will, but if that's what the offer is on the table, now you've got 3 firsts. If you can get a second for Stafford, I mean, who knows, right? I just think that you load up on your draft picks for this year with guys that are either older or part of the core or who are not going to be here in a couple of years when this team is maybe a contender. The other thing is, I don't have Phil on the show, obviously, but Phil could rattle off a ton of UFA defensemen coming into market at the end of this season. There's a lot of people out there if you're willing to make the right offer. So I don't
Let's
know.
see.
Like,
There's a free agent list here, and I think it's going to be pretty rich.
Yandel's one of them, right?
Brian Campbell.
Isn't Yandel and Brian Campbell?
So is Chevy banking that the market will be saturated and that Ladd won't get what he wants on the open market?
what do you that he
Do you think that's a possibility, guys?
keeps him and crosses his fingers he can sign him?
Yeah. Yeah, like he doesn't trade him and crosses his fingers that, he's not going to garner what he expects on the open market, and that the forward market will be pretty much like it was last year outside of Ryan Kessler.
From the past, he shouldn't. Chevy doesn't have a good track record of gambling and winning.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that.
Right.
No, he doesn't.
But he doesn't know that.
If he thinks he can re-sign Ladd, if he thinks that he's got a good shot, it's almost like, well, isn't that more reason to shop him? Maybe you shop him and then you say,
Absolutely.
then let's take
Get
him
assets for him now.
if we really want him.
What about a sign and trade deal? If they only want first rounders and high end picks for someone with term, what about signing and trading?
Usually doesn't happen with a UFA because the player. I mean, at this point, if I'm Andrew Ladd, I would just play it out. I would just play it out and wait till the summer, unless it's like Drew Stafford, where this unbelievable deal comes on the table, and you're like, holy shit! Like, this is more than anyone deserves. Sign. That's what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, again, look at it.
Oh,
Do you think something happens though?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think he gets traded? The ball's clearly in Chevy's court right now. Andrew Ladd made that public statement at the end of last week, basically saying, "Well, we're ready
Andrew
to
Ladd
negotiate
gets
where
traded.
the Jets are."
That's my bet.
If Andrew Ladd gets traded and Chevy comes up with another trade, maybe unloads a Drew Stafford or anything like that, he is going to get praise from me for the rest of the year.
That's all we've asked for.
until he goes off the board at the
No,
draft.
stop.
And you know what? And Alan's making a really good point. Like, next week is probably Big Al over here on the side in the comment thread. Next week will probably be the week. If they wait until next week, they'll probably get the most return for him. And probably the last day of the trade deadline is when it's going to heat up for Andrew Ladd. And Chevy might have his choice of 3 or 4 guys.
There's
right.
The good news, at least right now, is that there are a lot of teams that still think they're in the mix. So that probably opens up your,
Should we get Al on? He says he's naked in his semi, in his sleeper, in his semi truck right now. I'm just, I don't want to see it. Where are you right now, Al? Tell us where you are. Maybe that'll be interesting. He's a long haul driver, guys. semi-truck driver. So he's naked in his sleeper.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I don't know if
you know what? I'm high on what Chevy did with Buffin signing him to that term and that dollar amount. I never thought he would get away with something of that nature. Like we were discussing in August that if we wanted to get him for the term that was comfortable, we'd probably have to overpay by quite a bit. Al, like if the market says and what the reports are that Bufflin could have gotten $8 million a year on the open market. I think Chevy hit more than a home run with that signing. He hit a grand slam.
But I feel like Buff, no matter what, you weren't really gonna overpay for him because he's a one of a kind talent, right? Whereas I think with Lad,
absolutely,
you really do run the risk of overpaying for him.
Well, Ehlers has already replaced him in the lineup, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say
Third
that.
line.
So we've already plugged that. And then Kyle Connor, if he comes out, will have to have better than third line minutes to come out of college, right? If they want him to play, if they want him to sign, they'll have to pretty much give him a third line position or higher.
You can't talk to any of your prospects in college. They because of the NCAA rule, like the Jets can't go to Kyle Connor and say, yeah, if you come out of college, we'll give you this. You can't do that. Basically, the kid has to decide. From what I understand, because the NCAA rules is that they have to basically announce they're turning pro, and then you can have contact with them. Whereas I don't think the Jets can say to him, "Hey, Kyle, we want you to come play for us." I think we think you should leave college. So.
But the guys that they've had in college that were worth anything, they've done that with, right?
Yeah, like
so
Truba decided to leave school, but I just know from NCAA rules, they're very stingy as to what kind of contact the pro teams will have with their kids. Who is the guy who dated frickin' Kardashian and then got in trouble with
Tiger?
What's his name? No, the football player. Remember didn't he go to USC or UCLA or one of the
no, Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
Reggie Bush.
Yeah,
Reggie Bush.
The school got into a ton of trouble or something for giving him money because he's NCAA student. Anyways, that's my whole thing on NCAA.
It sucks.
They're talking about there's some talk about paying their NCAA athletes in the Big Two sports. Anyways, there've been some rumblings about that. Harrison, is that correct? Have you heard anything on that? Because basketball and football are the monsters.
I mean, I go to a big basketball school, but
revenue gen.
The NCAA is sort of I would say they're a little draconian with some of their policies regarding their student athletes. Like, if you give somebody a free lunch, for instance, that would be against their rules, and you could possibly be suspended or have your scholarship revoked. So even if they pay their kids, they can also do all sorts of backhanded things to basically make that move. So I don't think that paying the student athletes is really going to amount to much.
Anyways, sorry. I took us off topic there with the NCAA talk. Sorry, but go on. I understand what you're saying here with Kyle Connor, but yeah, you'd have to leave school first. So it's a risk.
And I think it's in the best interest for the Jets to have him leave school early. The longer he stays in, the more risky it becomes for the Jets.
But
right?
I mean, like, look at it this way: if they get into the top 5 and a line A drops to them, like, holy shit! Like that would be like best case scenario. You don't even need Andrew Ladd. You say, "Hey, Andrew, see you later. Here, thank you. Here's a nice fruit basket for your 5 years of playing for us in Winnipeg." But we got the hotter, younger girlfriend coming up that we don't need your old ass anymore.
Welcome.
Nothing comments, buddy.
What if they what if they win 3 games in a row for the first time this year?
I drank more.
Starting with Carolina's a winnable game, right?
Well, no, Carolina's been really good this year. They're one of those teams that everyone thought was going to be 30th in the NHL, but they're secretly.
Pavlik's going to come in and make 39 saves and seal the game, and it'll be 2 in a row, and they'll be pumping for the 3rd win in a row. No?
Papi, look at it this way. Even if they drop out of drafting top 5, they could draft 5th to 10th and get a Chichurin or someone. So there's your defensive prospect that you desperately need.
Well, I saw the numbers today, and as it stands, the Jets have a 38% chance of winning
38?
that top
No.
draft.
Better than.
There's no
38.
How do
Yeah.
you have a 38%
Who posted it?
of winning?
No, the numbers are there. Hold on.
38.
That's ridiculous.
Woo. I would take that all day.
That's not
Hold
true.
on.
That can't be possible, though.
Oh, no, not 30. 30% chance.
That's
It's a 30% chance where they stood right now.
That's still pretty
I don't
good.
know if you can see it. If you're on Carlos' Facebook
James,
page,
I don't
he
think I
posted
can
it
do
on
that.
Jets fan
I don't
page.
think I could do that.
No.
Okay.
Oh no,
Yeah,
not number
that's-
1, top
Well, yeah, top 5.
five.
That
Sorry.
makes
Yeah,
a lot
that's
more
a little bit
sense,
of a
but-
difference. Yeah. It depends on where they is that based on them being in 6th place right now or 6th last place?
Well, the most you can have is
Yes,
20%
we're there
chance.
right now.
So I think
Yeah.
Winnipeg would be.
We're in the
Winnipeg
7th
would be at
last.
what? Winnipeg would be 7 or 8%, maybe 6 now. Is it? Or maybe it's more like 10. I had to look it up now.
Well, 45, 55. I mean the bottom 5 picks, that's well over 60% of the percentage odds in the in the draft lottery. So yeah, but a top 5 pick, sure, they've got a good chance where they stand right now. But the lower you are, the better shot you have, and the lower you are, if somebody else leapfrogs you, the better, the better you have of still staying in that top 5.
Yeah, we're at 7.5% for the top pick.
You could be like the Phoenix. You could be like
We're
the
only
Phoenix
4 points out
last
though.
year and be sitting
only
in
4
the
points
second
out.
to last spot and get bumped out because the team behind you moves up. So,
Yeah. I don't know. I hope so. That the top 5 picks are insanely like the top 5 this year is better than the top 5 from last year, right? We take into account that Austin Matthews is rated higher than Jack Eichel would have been last year. He would have been the consensus number 2 pick if he was draft eligible last year, apparently. So
Yeah.
and Jack Eichel is making an impact right now.
I think Phil was saying the
kid's
top
insanely
7
talented.
would be fine for Winnipeg. But you start pushing that, and, this is still a ridiculously deep draft. Of course, these 2 years are pretty special.
Number 7 pick though, it kind of scares me because we probably would pick like a Mark Scheifele.
Off the board, Chevy.
Off the board, U.S.
Also, we have
Hockey
a 7
League.
pick, though.
Yeah.
Are we? You know what? Anyways, I don't even want to go there.
Don't worry.
But a Kachuk or a Matthews would look wicked. Kachuk would be the sentimental pick for a lot of our fan base, and he'd be a home run if we were able to pick him.
It'll be like Line
No?
A will be left on the board, and Chevy's gonna go and do something stupid, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, Chevy, why didn't you just trade back?" God.
We'll never do that. Anyways, so what's your prediction for the
for
week,
this week,
Alan? What is your prediction for this week?
in terms
guys?
of games or in terms of trades or what?
In terms of
No
everything
one
in
moves
Jets
this
land.
week, the Jets go 1-2 on the road trip.
So they have Carolina, then they have Tampa Bay,
Florida.
and then who do they have on?
They beat Carolina.
And then they have Florida. That Florida swing is going to be the toughest in a while, too, right? Yeah. Remember my sneaky good team for the year, hey? Remember my pick for sneaky good team?
Yeah, 1 and 2. That's.
Do you remember who that was? Oh, it's Florida.
Who's next?
Anyways, hopefully they're competitive, but they just lose all 3 games this week. I hope they look better. I hope it's entertaining. I hope the action's end to end. I hope Pavlik, has a save percentage north of 920, but the every team has more than 35 shots, and we lose 3-2 every game.
Sure.
Does that make sense or no?
Kat, before you fall asleep, what do you think's going to happen?
I think that on the road trip, I think they're going to get, out of a possible 6 points, I think they're going to get 5. I think that Chevy. I think they're going to win 2, and then they're gonna go to overtime and 1, just because it will make Ryan's life a living hell that happened, and he'll freak out, and he'll just be too much fun on the internet to deal with. I also think that trades start this week. I think trades started a week early last year, I believe. I think they're going to start either end of this week, beginning of next week, right before deadline ends. I wouldn't.
They started already, right? Ottawa and Toronto already.
But I do think it's gonna kick up this week. I wouldn't be surprised if Chevy dealt someone this week, just because of the injuries that are going on. I think GMs are gonna get trigger happy. I don't think he deals Lad, but maybe you see him try to deal a Postma or a Party or whatever, package up a Hutch or something. He'll do something. I just feel like he'll do something this week.
So do you think he trades Lad, period?
He does,
or no?
But I think it will be into next week that unless something happens this week and a team gets desperate, like if a major player goes down, you see like a major injury, I think, and a team gets a little trigger happy. That's the only scenario I can see that Lad goes. But I think he'll wait till middle of next week, end of next week, to decide what they're going to do with Lad.
Harrison.
Yeah, Alan says we might get Hossa for
my prediction is that the Jets go 0-3, no points whatsoever. I'm hoping Base Pavlik shows up. Electricity kind of. He is probably the most voodoo goalie in the entire NHL. You generally know what you're going to get with him, which is crap. But every now and again, he still surprises you. But I would actually think that Florida possibly makes a deal for Lad this week. I know Talon has said he's not interested in Lad was not on his radar, but that's bullshit. He's got to be on. Everyone's looking at Lad. There's no way no one is looking at Lad, especially a team like the Panthers.
Big Al actually made a good point.
Especially if he gets shut down on IR for any extended period of time. But I do think Kat's right. Postma probably is the odd man out, and I'm going to be really sad when that happens.
Yeah, he hasn't played. He hasn't. Yeah, I would fire my agent if I was Paul Postma. Really?
Yeah.
I don't think he gets a conditioning stint with the Moose, and that's an even bigger trial by fire than the Jets. So.
And it just makes me laugh, right? You always hear this loyalty. Well, here's a guy that gave up 3 years of his life to sit in a press box, and the Jets did nothing for him, except give him some money, but he could have probably gotten that anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm happy we got an hour and a bit out of this, considering there's really much to talk about. But thanks for joining us, Harrison. Nice to have you on board. Al, thanks. Everybody, AIH 20416. The next episode drops when?
We talked.
Dropped yesterday. If you haven't listened to it, it's a great show.
The best episode of AIH
everybody
was when he had those 2 Flyers fans on.
That was awful. We got so much bad feedback.
I like the Islanders one. You know, when they had a special guest in studio, he brought sexy to the 416 studio for sure. So.
All right, gang. Peace out.
Okay, guys. Hey, thanks for everybody who joined us for the whole show.
Bye.
See you next week.